All right, we're officially live. Welcome to the stream, everybody. Swinging Bull here with PB Alerts, options trading coach. We got Applied Materials reporting earnings. We got RCAT Holdings. Applied Materials, that's ticker symbol AMAT. RCAT Holdings, ticker symbol RCAT. Applied Materials supposed to report right at 4. Let's see what we got here. TradingView is a little lagging behind. I'm not seeing post-market price action yet. Go to Webull. There we go. Okay, so Applied Materials was down 3.2% today, as was a lot of other stocks. While we're waiting on AMAT's earnings reaction, just take a look at SPY and Triple Q. So I mean, SPY was trading at 683 in pre-market. Now it's below 673. It's a little bit more than a 10-point move to the downside today. Same thing with Triple Q. And everyone knows what the news was, right? Basically, there's doubt on the December rate cut now. You can kind of see some of the news here. Basically, odds of December Fed rate cut sink amid hawkish commentary. So this is all because of that, all right? So just in case anyone didn't know what was going on today, there's been some doubt for a December rate cut. That's what all this is about. If that doubt goes away, markets will rally. Easy as that. Look at AMAT getting a reaction here. This is the 5-minute chart. Let me go back to TradingView. Here we go. All right. Got 1-minute chart on AMAT. RCAT's not supposed to report until 4:05, I believe. So it's $7 to $8 stock here, RCAT. The main one today is Applied Materials, AMAT. $200 stock here. What's going on in the Discord? Already said hello to Onrod, Nikki, Rudel Trades here. TK's here, Yolanda's here. TK says on Discord, says RCAT needs to stay down so I can load up in the morning. Let's see what their bigger time frame chart looks like. Yeah, it looks like they've been kind of getting hit lately. Last month, they were trading in around $16, and now they're down here at 7. Jeez, that's like 50% down on just the stock there. Ouch. Kind of did the same thing back here. Maybe it'll start, maybe once it finds a bottom, TK, maybe it starts trending back up like it did back here. This was in March. So just got to kind of wait for a bottom. Probably put support right around here, right around 670 on RCAT. Let's see what the volume profile looks like real quick. Zoom out. Yeah, I mean, there was some volume that came down like right here. It's right around like $7. Kind of was support back here in July. So we'll see. They're supposed to report their data in just a few minutes. Back to AMAT, Applied Materials. They had an initial positive reaction up to 231. Now they're retraced all the way back down. Now they're down 1% in the post market. Let me get their data because I'm sure it's out now. They reported at 4. A little after 4 o'clock right now. About 300 people in the stream. Good to see everybody. Welcome. Okay, here is a graphic from the earnings correspondent. So they did double beat, but their year over year and quarter over quarter numbers are red across the board. Wonder if they lowered guidance a little bit because they're not showing any growth from last year or last quarter. But they did they did beat the forecast just by a little bit. EPS for Applied Materials, the forecast was $2.10. They just reported $2.17, so beat by 3%. Revenue forecast was $6.67 billion. They reported $6.8 billion. So yeah, they did double beat, but see lots of red down here on the growth numbers. Let me see if I can find some more data. Okay, they came down to like 218 a share, and there is a green candle printing right now. So we'll see if there's going to be any dip buyers around that area. Let me refresh my other screen real quick. Almost 400 people in the stream now. What's up, everybody? Swinging Bull, PB alerts. Let's go. Look at the Discord. Okay, the implied move for Applied Materials, the implied move for Applied Materials is almost 5%, a little under 5%. So like $10.83 a share, if you want to get specific about it. Now, AMAT, their last 4 earnings, they sold off. Let me look at tip ranks real quick and pull and just confirm that, but that's kind of what I was seeing. Give me 1 second for this to load up. There we go. Let's look at their previous earnings. Okay, yep, just as I expected. They were down 1 day after their earnings announcements on their previous 4 earnings. The last time they reported in August, they were down 14% the next day. The time they reported in May, they were down a little over 5% the next day, the 1 day after. And 3 earnings ago, they were down 8%. 4 earnings ago, they were down 9%. So they just kind of have a history. That's kind of what I'm looking at here on tip bricks here. There's lots of pop-ups today. You can see that right there, right in the middle. So they've got a pretty good history of having bad reactions to earnings. But, I mean, it is a $200 stock now. So they're obviously doing something right. Just expectations, I think, are being set too high. And it's kind of hard for them to meet expectations on these earnings. Go 5-minute chart on RCAT because their earnings data is out. They're up 6%. Let's see if this holds. We go back to AMAT just for a second. So we looked at the, that's another thing. Like they do a great job of beating EPS. You can see like the last 10 earnings here, green across the board. But they just have a tough time with the reactions. Investors are just wanting too much out of them, or like I say, the forecasts are just being set too high on some line items with the earnings. Let me post EPS and revenue. Porterhouse on X. What's up, brother? Came by to say hello. Good to see you, man. Porterhouse over there in Thailand. We're international. Look at RCAT. Geez, up to $8.30. RCAT's up over 8% now. So they're catching a little bit of a bid. Let's see if the move holds. This is a 1-minute chart, and it's kind of got some gaps in it, kind of sloppy price action. So let's see if it holds. A little bit of commentary regarding Applied Materials, AMAT. This is from Gary Dickerson, the president and CEO. Said, as AI adoption drives substantial investment in advanced semiconductors and wafer fab equipment, Applied Materials delivered its 6th consecutive year of growth in fiscal 2025. All right. And they said, we are well positioned at the highest value technology inflections in the fastest growing areas of the market, enabling us to extend our leadership in leading edge logic. Porterhouse over in Thailand says it's 4 a.m. over there, listening with one eye. Yeah, so you're like, geez, you're 12 hours, a 12-hour difference. Make sure to recharge them batteries at some point, my friend. This is a little commentary from the CFO of Applied Materials. We're going to go over RCAT next because they're getting a nice positive reaction. Again, kind of sloppy price action, but we'll see. So the CFO for AMAT says, based on our conversations with our customers and partners, we are preparing Applied's operations and service organizations to be ready to support higher demand beginning in the second half of calendar 2026. We have targeted our research and development investments to create new products and technologies that will enable even faster and more energy efficient transistors, chips, and systems and drive our growth in the years ahead. Kind of flashy commentary, not really matching up with the price action, is it? So I want to look a little bit more into this. But like I say, they have a pretty good history of having bad reactions to the earnings. It's just one of those things, but they did beat EPS. This is from the Trend Spider. They did beat EPS. They did beat revenue. Let me post those numbers for everyone, matter of fact. Okay, Applied Materials. Earnings results. I'll post this in the Discord for everyone as well. So I'll put that on the bottom of my screen. Okay, RCAT just made a complete reversal back down. So they're right back to where they closed the regular session at. We'll find out what's up with them. I just want to finish going over Applied Materials. We'll find out when the earnings web call is and all that stuff like I normally do. So double beat on Applied Materials as far as EPS and revenue, but they are getting a negative reaction, and RCAT is now heading south. So both stocks had an initial positive reaction, which wasn't the real move, obviously, and now both stocks heading down. I mean, kind of staying with the MO of today's price action in general. Taking a quick peek back at SPY and the triple Qs. I mean, SPY had a 10-point move down. Triple Q had even a bigger move down. They were around 620 in the morning. They came all the way down to 606 at one point. So kind of reminded me of the price action from back here last month, almost 1 month ago today. Remember, SPY printed that big red daily candle and pushed it below my EMAs on the daily chart, and everyone was wondering, you know, are we going to start downtrending or what? You know, is this going to be another correction like we had from February to April back here? See right here, February to April. That's when markets basically corrected 20%. If it would have went down any more than that, we'd be in a bear market right now. But you know, 20% kind of needed to bounce there, or we're going to bear market territory. But luckily, it bounced, and it was just a 20% correction, and off to the races since April. So you know, zooming out, looking at what happened from February to April, that was pretty dramatic. You know, we're talking about a 100-point move on S&P, or SPY that follows the S&P. SPY is the ETF that follows S&P 500, but 100-point move on SPY, insane, right? So you know, we need to pop back up above these EMAs soon. The last time, well, we popped below it. Last week, November 6th. We had a little scare there. Even gapped down on day 2, and then the buyers pushed it up, turned into a nice hammer candle there, and you know, going into this week, things were looking okay. They're okay, and then fast forward to today, boom, right back below the EMA. So this is where, you know, not financial advice, and I'll go back to Applied Materials here in a second, RCAT, but I just want to talk about this. It's a good time to talk about it. when we see price action like this on the daily chart on SPY, it's a good time to maybe think about putting some hedges in place, perhaps. Maybe spend a little bit of money just to have some protection there. It will calm your emotions and your stress, with your open positions. And I know there's investors out there that have had positions open for a long time, and I know it sucks to see drawdown and stuff like that, but you got to start thinking. What I would do is start thinking about how to protect these open positions. And assuming you have 100 shares of a stock, I know a lot of, sometimes people don't have 100 shares, especially the big dollar stocks. It might be hard to accumulate 100 shares on some of the bigger stocks. But, if you have open positions you've had for a while and you do have 100 shares or more, consider deploying a collar trade on those positions, which would be selling a covered call and then using that credit to buy a naked put option, and then you can cap your downside through the strike price of the naked put option. Okay, a lot of times the credit you receive on the covered call will cover the cost of your naked put, so you're kind of getting a free hedge, if you will. It's not really coming out of your pocket. So times of uncertainty, collar trades are a great thing to do. If you don't have 100 shares of a stock, because it's just like a bigger stock. I mean, think about 100 shares of SPY right now. You need $67,000, right? If you were to buy 100 shares of that right now. So that's a bit of capital. Not everyone has can do that. But so if you don't have 100 shares of the underlying stock, consider. So if you don't have 100 shares of the underlying stock and the underlying stock does have an options chain, you can consider opening up some put debit spreads. Okay, that's a good way to be able to make some money on the downside without needing relatively a lot of capital. You can participate in the strike prices that are at the money or even in the money by using debit spreads, and it'll cost you the fraction amount of the buying power that would be needed if you're going after strikes that are at the money, naked options, basically. So, this is a lot of the things that I teach in the Discord that I've been teaching over the years, and a lot of my coaching students know these strategies. I've been teaching them for a while now. So, just some words of encouragement, because I know some people kind of maybe freaked out today a little bit. It's not all the time. It's not every day that we see a 10-point move on SPY to the downside. So sometimes it can get emotions going and stuff like that. But just know, if your opinion of your underlying stocks on your open positions, if you're still solid on those underlying stocks and you believe in those companies, this will pass. It always does. So try not to get too upset. The best thing to do, in my opinion, is not just sit on the sidelines and watch. At least be proactive or reactive and do something about it. And yes, to put a hedge in place outside of the collar trade, which we can kind of get a lot of times get a free hedge by doing a collar trade. But outside of that, I mean, there are ways to put protection in place. So yes, to put protection in place, it's going to cost a little bit of money. It's like having, automobile insurance every month. You kind of paying a premium every month just in case something happens. But if you don't get into a car accident, then you don't get a refund on your monthly, the cost of that insurance, right? It's just a what if scenario. But if you do get in a car accident, you're going to wish you had it. So just kind of like a little comparison there. When we talk about hedging our open positions, it's going to cost a little bit of money, but that little bit of money that you're going to spend for that protection is just going to be a drop in the bucket compared to the amount of potential loss that you could be looking at. So that's why we want to, when things get uncertain, price action on the daily chart, on the indexes are looking a little flaky, it's okay to spend a little bit of money to put some protection in place, okay? And you'll feel better. I mean, it's kind of funny because after you go ahead and put the hedge in place, you automatically start feeling better. You're like, all right, now I'm protected, and especially like a collar trade, that protective put will hedge your entire downside from the strike price you choose. And just make sure that the naked put option, if you can, just make sure the strike price is above. It can be like right at your cost basis or a little bit above your cost basis, and that way you're fully protected. And then you're going to sell a covered call above the underlying stock price to help pay, or if not, pay for the whole thing of that naked put. So, and again, if you don't have 100 shares of stock, and you can't do the collar trade, I'm telling you, put debit spreads. They go a long way, and you can just rinse and repeat those every 2 weeks. That's usually what I do when volatility gets up. Look at what VIX is at today. What VIX is back up in 20. It was above 20. It's still above 20. So when volatility picks up, you can't just sit on the sidelines and do nothing. You gotta figure out how to protect yourself. And if you can't figure it out, join the Discord. Come and tag me in the chat. If you want to share your position details, I don't mind taking a look and just maybe telling you what I would do if I were in your shoes. I love helping people. I don't want to see people lose money. And a lot of times people lose money and they could have prevented it. So we got to start treating this like a business and be a little more professional about this. And when things get uncertain and volatility picks up, it's not a game anymore. So just some words of encouragement out there, especially if you still believe in regarding any open positions you might have. If you still believe in those underlying stocks and they're good companies with good fundamentals and good financials, it's gonna be okay. All right, this will pass. So let's go back to AMAT and RCAT. RCAT's trying to bottom out. They came down a lot further than I thought. They came down to like the low to mid $6 range. They came down to 6.32. We'll see if that level holds. It's kind of chopping around right now. This is the 1 minute chart. Let me find out when Applied Materials earnings web call is, because geez, it's almost 4:30. I got carried away there talking for 10-15 minutes about hedging, but now is the time to, I wish people would hear me talk about it before a day like today happens, but nonetheless, today is the day that if you haven't thought about it before, you should probably start thinking about it. Did I post EPS and revenue for AMAT in Discord? Yes, I did. Okay. And I got it on the bottom of my screen. Let me find out when their earnings web call is, because I know a lot of people want to know that. That's when you get to hear from the higher ups, and they take a little bit more of a deeper dive into the earnings data and the guidance. And then while this is loading up, let me just see if there's any other kind of red flags with AMAT on why it's selling right now. All right, let me see. And it's, the CEO and CFO, their commentary that they released with the data. Oh boy, were they sugarcoating that, Obviously, investors have a different opinion. Let's see what else. Okay, here's their investor relations page. So let's find out when their call is. Let's move this out just a little bit. All right, let's see. If you want the press release, and also they reported Q4. I got that question the other day. They're like, wait, how are they reporting Q4 if we're in Q4 right now? Well, the companies sometimes have different start and end dates to their calendar year. Like not all companies start their calendar year on January 1st. So that's the explanation on why that you see that sometimes. So they technically reported their Q4, which means their calendar year did not start on January 1st. But let me post this link. Oops, what did I just do? Get me out of there. Hold on, let me just go back here. There we go. I'm gonna post this link. This is gonna take you to their investor relations page for StarCraft on YouTube. I'm going over applied materials right now. And here's the link that'll get everyone to the earnings web call. And I'll post that in the Discord as well. And if you want a deeper dive into their earnings data, probably click this press release here. It's a 13-page PDF document. So you can go through here and dig deeper and kind of look more closely at their margin and things of that nature. And also their, let me see here. Yeah, gross margins remaining relatively stable, I suppose. Let me just look. This is 13 pages. You can look at their net revenue, operating costs, things like that. Let me find out when their earnings web call is. That'd be good to know. Just click right here, webcast. Okay, they just want you to read a safe harbor disclosure here. That's okay. So proceed to webcast. All right, it starts at 4:30 p.m. Yeah, StarCraft, RCAT. They did get a negative reaction. They actually had an initial positive reaction. They came up all above $8, but that obviously wasn't the real reaction, and they fell all the way down. So we're gonna figure out why that happened. It looks like they are trying to form a bottom, like in the mid $6 range. So maybe that's a level there that investors might think it's a demand, could be a demand zone. Investors might think it could be a discount on the stock down there. Let me do this. I'm going to draw this. Since that initial reaction, I'm not going to count that because that wasn't the real move. I'm just going to put it kind of where it closed at, right there. Let me check something else. All right. Go back here. So around the $6.30 area, that's my support level number one. It's trying to be support now. It has popped up a few times. Kind of keeps hitting its head over here around 670 a share. So we'll see if it can start retracing some of these levels. But applied materials earnings web call starts in 3 minutes. And that's the link on the bottom of my screen. We'll get you there. So let me move this out the way for a second, and let's talk about RCAT. Figure out what's going on with them. Let me just pop this screen back over here. And we'll get EPS and revenue on RCAT and see what's up with them. Okay, give me 1 second. I know there's a lot of people that trade RCAT, but okay, RCAT missed EPS by 60%. That's not good. EPS is down 7% quarter over quarter on RCAT, so they do got some red flags here. They did beat revenue, double-digit beat on revenue, so that is a silver lining. Also for RCAT, their revenue is up 647% year over year. Amazing. But they missed EPS by a lot. And of course, that's earnings per share. That's pretty important for investors. They do not have a positive EPS. So their EPS is in the negative, and they missed forecast on the EPS. So there's definitely some red flags on RCAT's earnings There's no EPS growth whatsoever, but there is revenue growth. So we look at a few other things, and then we'll find out when RCAT's earnings web call is. So Applied Materials earnings web call starts in about 30 seconds. I'm not going to personally stream it, but I gave everyone the link. If you want to jump over there, it's cool. Won't hurt my feelings. Okay, let's take a look at RCAT a little deeper here. So here's some commentary from RCAT. Looks like the CEO and the CFO. And I just want to look at a few other things. 2025 annual revenue guidance updated, 34.5 to 37.5. It looks like they might have lowered guidance a little bit, possibly. But they do have a monster revenue growth, but the earnings per share is just getting hammered. So Jeff Thompson, the CEO of RCAT, says our record-breaking, here, let me put RCAT's price up here on the right. Our record-breaking third quarter revenue and the expansion of our contract with the U.S. Army clearly demonstrates the accelerating adoption of our specialized solutions within the defense and national security sectors. We are seeing significant returns on our focused strategy, with our products being validated by major government agencies and NATO allies, and necessitating the recent 2x expansion of our drone manufacturing facilities. This expansion allows us to deliver speed and volume at scale to the Department of War and U.S. allies through foreign military sales, which is known as FMS. Also, the recent launch of our USV division, Blue Ops, and the lease of our 155,000 square foot vessel building facility positions us to be the leader of delivering critical unmanned systems for use over land and sea. And for those that don't know, obviously, RCAT is they're in the industry is aerospace and defense, but they basically they're provider of product, services, and solutions to the drone industry. They were down almost 10% today. Another drone company that y'all might find interesting, you can look at it later if you want. UMAC, UMAC. They also took a bit of a hit lately as well. So, you know, it could be a good demand level coming up soon. But UMAC's another one that we've traded in the past in the Discord, and we've made some good money on it. So kind of similar to RCAT. The CFO of RCAT, Chris Erickson, he says our financial performance this quarter demonstrates the operational leverage and discipline as we effectively scale to meet surging demand. We have substantially improved our balance sheet to be able to execute on our long-term goals. Then he goes on to say we have bolstered our quarter-end cash and receivables of $212.5 million, in addition to our $30.6 million in inventory and inventory deposits. This liquidity gives us the appropriate strength and ability to execute the demands of the U.S. Army's SRR program, continue building out our USV division, and take advantage of possible technology acquisitions and international growth opportunities as we look to position ourselves into 2026. So again, more fantastical statements from the higher ups on both of these companies, but the price action is doing the opposite of what the commentary is so far. AMAT's earnings web call is going on right now. And I think I left that link up long enough. I'm going to put back up Applied Materials, EPS, and revenue. StarCraft. Yeah, RCAT got spanked. Holy, do we sell or hold? I can't tell you directly when to buy or sell, but I can tell you what I would do. You know, kind of where my risk would be at. I mean, it does look like they're trying to bounce. So sometimes you just need to be a little patient. Look, it's fish hooking up right now. And there's actually, let me go to time and sales. Let's see. Yeah, there's some buying coming in right now. This is a 5-minute chart too. These aren't 1-minute candles. It's working on its third 5-minute green candle print. It's already back up to $7. So, you know, I don't think it's getting hammered too bad. This is down 8%. Looks like it's making a comeback. You can see these orders bulking up on the bid side here of the level 2. And we got quite a few buy orders coming in here. So, you know, it's not all doom and gloom. It could be worse. I'm an optimistic, so I try and look at the bright side when I can. But of course, we need to look at both sides. Let me just look at a few other things here. Financials, yeah, they've been having trouble pulling a profit for the past 5 quarters. They haven't pulled a profit in the past 5 years. You know, that's a problem for me. So I try not to trade or invest in stocks that aren't pulling a profit. This company hasn't pulled a profit in 5 years. So that's a little concerning for me. Unlike the commentary from the CEO and CFO, I don't sugarcoat things. Their year-over-year numbers on net income are terrible. So you got to be careful with this one. Good, a little silver lining with it. They have really, really low debt compared to their assets. Their debt to asset ratio is only 21%. That's pretty good. That's really good, actually. And let's go annual basis. This is for RCAT again. Let's see. Cash and equivalents on a quarterly basis. Yeah, I mean, their cash and equivalents has increased substantially over these previous quarters. So that's something. Just got to keep an eye on how much money they're burning every quarter. Looks like they're burning, what, $13 million a quarter, well, as the last earnings they reported. So keep your eye on that and compare it to how much cash and accounts receivable. They're saying they got 200 million in cash in accounts receivable at the end of Q3. So I suppose they got a pretty solid runway, but they need to start improving things quick because they're burning cash every quarter. So, but yeah, I mean, we were looking at this before. Let me go to TradingView on this actually. But look, this is for StarCraft on YouTube. They're starting to retrace back up. They've already retraced, not including, here, let me draw a box around this. I just want to show you what I mean. Where's my rectangle box? Here it is. I didn't count this price action right here, this white box, because that wasn't the real move. So just kind of taking price action below that false move down to here. And they've already retraced half of the selling from where they closed the regular session. So that is a little promising. It looks like maybe the bottom's in. For support levels, it needs to hold this 25% retrace down here, like $6.70 a share. That's where I'd be looking for it to hold. We don't want it to go below there because then it's going to be like a little magnet down to after hours low. Might even make a new low. So $6.70 would really like that level to hold technical analysis wise for the bulls. But you know, again, I can't tell you when to buy or sell, but I can tell you, you know, this is just something to keep in mind moving forward when you go to invest in certain companies. You know, if they're not a profitable company, that's a totally speculative trade there. I like to mainly trade companies that are pulling a profit and they got positive PE ratio. They got positive EPS. Their debt to asset ratio is within reason. You know, So no offense to the RCAT bulls out there. This is something I just wouldn't have a lot of money in. Do I trade speculative stocks? Yes, but it's a small percentage of my total capital. The bulk of my capital is going to healthy, fundamentally sound companies. Okay, so, you know, if there's anything I can say that maybe helps have a better forward-looking vision on how we approach companies and how we do our DD, you know, maybe I've done something good for somebody today. But RCAT is just, it's not a company I would have a lot of money in because they haven't pulled a profit in 5 years. I mean, you're asking for the company to do like this miraculous turnaround and all of a sudden start profiting. And they got some work, they got the work cut out for themselves. So we just want to start seeing things improving, even if it's slowly improving on a fundamental and financial side or aspect. We got to start seeing those things start improving quarter over quarter, and then maybe it'll pique my interest. Because don't get me wrong, you know, I have invested in companies that aren't pulling a profit, but I've also taken into consideration, you know, okay, let's look at the past 3 or 4 earnings. Are they showing signs of improvement? And if there's being signs shown of improvement over the past, you know, handful of quarters, then hey, maybe we're on to something, and this might be a comeback story, you know, this company. But we've got to be able to look at that data and make a decision, you know. So I hope that helped. StarCraft, again, I'm not going to tell you when to buy and sell, but just maybe some things I mentioned to maybe give a little more clarity on how we should be investing our hard-earned money. You know, I've been trading for about 10 years now, so this is just how I am. You know, I'm kind of just built this way now after time, and there's a reason. You know, the market only needs to humble me once or twice before I get the picture. You know, but I hope I didn't offend you. I'm not the type to beat around the bush and blow smoke. I'm going to tell you exactly how I see it. And sometimes the things I see about certain companies aren't always good. But I'm not going to try and hide it and just be like, oh, you know, it's a great stock and it's going to the moon. I mean, if you hear people talking like that, run. They don't know what the hell they're talking about, and they're not being real with you. I want to be real with you, you know. It is making a decent effort at retracing. I mean, 670, definitely want to stay above there, but we might have another level of support here on a smaller time frame. Again, this 1 minute candle, but still $6.80. This could be a higher low. If this confirms higher low, and we get a break of this horizontal structure right around 7.15, it's going to make a really good effort at retracing this. So, you know, and also this is for anyone holding RCAT that might be down. You know, moving forward, let me go intraday here. Let me see if they got an option change. Yeah, they do. They got weekly options. The premiums, you know, there's a little bit of meat on the bone here on the premiums. Of course, this was the premium going into the earnings, so it's probably inflated because of the earnings. So tomorrow, the premiums on these contracts might go down some. They probably will go, excuse me, they probably will go down some, but nonetheless, there's still money to be had here. So if you're currently seeing a bunch of drawdown on RCAT and you have 100 shares, you should be cranking out covered calls. I mean, if anyone was red on RCAT going into this earnings, you should have already been selling covered calls. Because I mean, look, I mean, even this $9 covered call selling the last sell was $40, 0.40. You could have sold that, and that would have reduced your cost basis on 100 shares by 0.40. That would have been a huge chunk cost basis reduction just by deploying a covered call. And then you'd have a little downside protection. And now your new average per share for 100 shares, if you only did one covered call, if you have 200 shares, do 2 covered calls. That's how you, and then you can effectively reduce your cost basis on all your shares if the amount of shares line up with the amount of covered calls you're doing, right? So just some things to think about. And hopefully that helped some of you out there. Got almost 1,100 people tuning in. Wow, good to see everyone. Appreciate the engagement too. It's fun. I like chatting with everyone and just kind of, diving in and seeing what's going on with things, But yeah, it's about 4:45 p.m. I think everyone's, we got a good idea what's going on. AMAT trying to bottom out around 216. We'll see if that holds. I'd like it to get back above these EMAs here. That would be nice. That puts it right around like 219 a share. If you get above this green 21 EMA, that's a 5-minute chart here. If AMAT gets back above 219, my confidence will go up a bit that this has a chance of coming right back up. Look, it's printing a green 5-minute candle right now. Got lots of green coming in on the time and sale, so that's good. RCAT still making a solid attempt at retracing. It's retraced like half this selling, maybe a little more by now. So don't get too stressed out. Maybe starting tomorrow on RCAT, if you still seeing drawdown on, if you see drawdown on RCAT tomorrow and you have 100 shares, start rinse and repeating those covered calls. I'm telling you, it's a great strategy. But yeah, my name's The Swinging Bull with PB Alerts for any new viewers. I do these streams every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Pick out 2 companies, two of the popular companies I can find. We go over EPS, go over revenue, any guidance, any commentary. We find out when their earnings web calls are. We find out how to get there. I give the link to everybody. We look at some levels on the bigger time frames. Look at some some levels where my risk would be at. We look at some examples of some trades that maybe I would do on them. We have a lot of fun. But yeah, if you're looking for a new home, check out the Discord. There's a link in the description. You can actually join for free. And if you do end up joining, tag me in the chat. Also, if you like the content, feel free to follow me on X. My handle is swingingbull_1. I do post a lot of content on my X account that you might be interested in. But yeah, other than that, I hope everyone enjoyed. I hope everyone has a great night. And until next time, I'll see everyone in the very next stream. Cheers.